Showtime.
Hey guys, Django Fett here, heading down games, comics, TV shows, movies, and more, and welcome to the prequel reviews. I'm finally starting. So this one is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So this movie actually came out back in 1999 and is written and directed by George Lucas. And I actually have the prequel collection right here. And I thought this one actually had, this is Blu-ray by the way, and I thought this version actually had the no changes, but this one does have the changes, unfortunately, and I'll get to those changes a little bit later. But, you know, I wanted to get this because I heard this was mostly unedited compared to the originals, and I still haven't seen the originals in years because of the changes made by George Lucas. So that's the one bad thing about the special editions, constant special editions and changes to the you know, the original trilogy and even the prequels too. So, but I think this is fine for what it is, and I think it's pretty good. So in this review, I will go into most of the scenes I liked and disliked, and really get down into it, but not go deep into the minutia of the film. But you'll see me go fast and explain my points as much as I can, and I do want to address as much as possible. So I'll be very spontaneous, and it'll be much like the foreign film Madness reviews, and it'll be constantly going scene to scene and flipping from one point to one. So I remember seeing this movie twice in theaters as a kid, and I loved my time with it. And I actually have some Star Wars memorabilia behind my computer, one signed by Jake Lloyd, which is pretty cool, and then one by Ian McGregor and Liam Neeson. So I think that's pretty cool. I just found this online. It was pretty cheap. I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get this. So after the original trilogy came out, the prequels had unreasonably high expectations going into them. Everyone expected it on the level of the originals, which would never happen, but these idiots bought into it and expected original trilogy and just didn't get it. You know, 20 years, I think it was 35 years later, people thought it would be the same as the originals or on the same level, but no. I mean, that's why we got Force Awakens and the new Star Wars content, I guess, to make up for it for those people. But it's the same old rehashed original stuff with no creative bone in its body. And it's honestly even worse than the prequels at this point. I just think it's crazy how people will micromanage every little thing with these films and say this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. Down to the atom because it's Star Wars, but other films will never get that same type of criticism at all. Not even Force Awakens, even though that movie had a shit ton of fucking problems with its plot that honestly put the prequels to shame. And that was the first Disney movie. So enough of my mini rant, let's just get right into the review itself. So the film starts off with Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn and Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi going to the Separatists and negotiating with them. And both are fantastic in this film, and it's really Qui-Gon Jinn's film by far. That's not to say I didn't like Obi-Wan, because this is definitely my favorite interpretation of Obi-Wan. Young, naive Obi-Wan, but goddamn Liam Neeson just really captures the show. And when this movie starts, the CGI and effects are really great, and it really shows in Blu-ray. And the green screen or the blue screen backgrounds blend mostly very well 80% of this time. And I think some of the all CGI characters didn't age well, like Jar Jar. But this is 1999, back when you wouldn't expect some really good CGI at the time. But still, like, looks pretty good for the most part. Sometimes you can't tell it's CGI, just like the droids too. They look pretty good. When Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are forced to fight the droids, it reminds me of their many adventures in the EU. Then the droid invasion of Naboo happens, and it's almost magical with this music playing and distraught as you see them go to the palace, and it's just the queen is looking down in despair. And then we have our reveal of Jar Jar, and easily the worst part of the film. There's no doubt about that. He's an annoying and he's meant for kids. And I just feel bad for the actor Ahmed Best, as he was deeply depressed after the role and actually suicidal to a point, due to the horrible and disgusting anti-prequel fan base sending him hate and death threats. After seeing this powerful video with Ahmed, I recommend you check it out. I'll put a link in the description. I just have newfound respect for the man. Same for Jake Lloyd as Anakin. When you have groups like Red Letter Media criticize the films insanely down to the point and create this almost rabid anti-prequel fan base and will take it to the extreme. Now, I'm not saying that Red Letter Media are causing all these death threats and whatnot, but they are amplifying it. Almost like a certain president making a certain white group feel emboldened. So I gotta say the soundtrack. Say what you want about the prequels. What you can't deny is how great the soundtrack is. Duel of Fates and the rest of the movies have their own unique prequel themed songs associated with it, and I just truly believe the prequels are better than the original trilogy when it comes to music, and I will stand by that. Then we have the Planet Course section, which is really cool, and they run into these giant monsters. It's just a really cool affair. And Naboo is actually set in an actual place in Italy called the Palace of Caserta. It's a very stunning location, and I just love how Amidala has this new outfit in almost every sequence. It just makes her more like royalty and elegant and queen-like. And at least it's not just one outfit you see like a Jedi wears and that's it. It actually seems like she is of importance and really stands out. Then we come to a major plot hole that occurs, and it will be revealed a little bit later too. But it's the massive control ships in orbit, and after the blockade, they all leave except for one. I don't remember if it's mentioned in the EU or why that occurs, but that's a huge issue. And when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan rescue the Queen and her crew and leave Naboo, they all assimilate, and it just feels like it's a very small adventure film that gets you to see, bond, and love almost every character. You see them, belong with them. I get what this movie is about, while most others don't. Then we go to Tatooine after escaping from Naboo, and it's a very interesting segment. It's definitely slowed down, you would say, but especially the pod racing section is just an incredible sequence. And we also encounter our first glimpse of Jake Lloyd as young Anakin, and this is when the bad dialogue happens. Are you an angel? Now, I don't blame the actor but Lucas's script. I do think Anakin should have been played by Haley Joel Osment at the time, as he was more of a capable young actor, as you saw in films like The Sixth Sense and AI. He was at the time the first choice, then Lucas went with Jake Lloyd. I just think it makes more sense now with Jake Lloyd, because Hayden Christensen does look like the part if Jake Lloyd got older, as evident with this cover. I just feel really bad for Jake Lloyd and what he went through, after the films and going to college and school and stuff like that, and just his life was ruined because of episode 1, and I just feel bad for that. But I do like him in episode 1. I don't hate him by any means. Also, when Jar Jar encounters Sebulba, we actually see Quinlan Vos in the background when Sebulba strangles Jar Jar. I never noticed that before somebody mentioned that to me, and it's just nice to see Vos become a household name within the EU now. And when Anakin talks to his new friends, he says, "I had a dream I came back here and freed all of the slaves." It just foreshadows what Vader is and where the Emperor will force him to do the exact opposite. It just reminds me of the Dark Times comic when he's Vader and witnesses slavery and does nothing but punish himself to suppress this memory he had in the past. And then we come to the midichlorian's so-called issue, in quotes, living thing within all of us that's integrated as the Force, but it's used as analyzing the Force levels. And Anakin has a high midichlorian count, and shows how he is the chosen one, which makes sense. Then we have the Tatooine Podrace, which is easily, I would say, is my favorite moment in the movie. It's high octane, exciting, and exhilarating. It's an incredible race filled with non-stop action. And I also noticed the Willow actor Warwick Davis with Watto during the pod race. That's actually pretty cool to see. And when the race is over, this dynamic and epic race, Anakin has to say goodbye to his mom, and it's just very genuine and sad. And when he walks away, it reminds me of the great poster where Anakin is walking and the shadow is the image of Vader. And they add Anakin as the crew now after Qui-Gon and Maul duel. Maul just starts off using the single blade to reveal the double-bladed lightsaber later on, which is actually a pretty cool thing. And when they leave, they enter Coruscant, and the planet is gorgeous to behold. The whole planet is a city with huge buildings and vehicles flying everywhere. There's always something to look at in the background. And this is when we get into the politics talk that many people had an issue with. Now, as a kid, I didn't really understand all the politics stuff, and it did indeed slow down the film for a little, but it always picked up throughout the film. There was always these slowed down moments here and there, which are, which we need after these exciting, high-octane moments, but it worked with the slow down moments. It didn't feel like it, ruined the film by any means at all. But after a few years after that time I didn't understand it, I understood it, and the EU helped with that too. And even if you're new to Star Wars, it's pretty easy to understand the politics section. I mean, you have to be an idiot and a man-child not to understand it, right? Honestly, the politics part is very short at 10 to 15 minutes with Jedi Council part sprinkled in, but that's it. People are still bitching about it, which I do not understand. Now, the Jedi Council part is actually pretty cool to witness. You see the Jedi Masters engage with Obi-Wan, and they're all assembled in this circle. They engage with Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Anakin, and we see Samuel Jackson as Mace Windu, which is cool, and Yoda and the other Masters having more in the EU to do as well. And Yoda is changed from puppet to CGI for some reason. The CGI Episode 2 version. Not a fan. I like the puppet more as it felt more organic, but that's the one time I felt CGI just didn't work in this film. Even though it looked like the best part, the CGI character for Yoda, I would say, but it just didn't seem right. And more in the politics part, we had the Senate meeting, which is actually really cool as well. You see all these planets represented by different aliens and races, and you already see corruption and evil start to corrode the Republic. And it will only get worse in later films. And also you see aliens from E.T. as a race, which is weird, but cool nonetheless. Never been a fan of E.T. Back to the Council, Obi-Wan doesn't believe in Qui-Gon's thoughts and training Anakin, and believes in the Council's wisdom over Qui-Gon's, in quote, rogue nature, and even says you would be on the Council if you just listen to them. Headstrong and insulting his own master. But we know, and would know more in EU, that Qui-Gon is beyond all these Jedi Masters, including Yoda. He is what I would consider the first ever Grey Jedi on the big screen, which is ingenious. A Grey Jedi is one who would walk the lines between light and dark, and while Qui-Gon would not outright show his dark nature, only just through his disobedience to the Council, and almost feeling he's almost above them. Now, when Anakin is brought to the Jedi Council, Yoda asks if he's afraid and says, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. And when he said that, it just felt really distinct and hit you. You felt almost scared like Anakin did. And I have to bring up the CGI thing. I felt when spoken, it was more distinct and hit you with the puppet version than the CGI. But it was still a very powerful moment in the film. Definitely foreshadow of what's to come with Anakin in the future. That fear would be his downfall. The Queen decides to go back to Naboo, so the whole gang joins up, but no others, which is odd. No other Jedi or elite troops, nothing. And when they return, the blockade is gone and only one droid control ship is there. This is a major plot hole that I mentioned before, and it's just for convenience's sake, just so Anakin can save the day. And when they return to Naboo, Obi-Wan apologizes for his impulses, and Qui-Gon says he foresees Obi-Wan becoming a great Jedi Knight and says he is much wiser than him. And when the Naboo people return, they want to form an alliance with the Gungans. And it is revealed that Amidala was played by Natalie Portman, is the actual real queen. Go figure. And the double is actually played by Keira Knightley, which I didn't even know about for the longest time. So they form this alliance, and Jar Jar is somehow general, and is just terrible in it, and it's just supposed to be comedy relief when it comes to the battle, which is, yeah, not very good. It's just seeing the actual droids was just, it was the more interesting part with their varied units and vehicles. That was actually pretty cool when they assembled and attacked the Gungans. The Gungans themselves were just pretty bad. Then we have Anakin hiding in a ship, and it automatically starts up and flies autopilot to the control ship. Because, yeah, that makes sense. How nobody questions this, I just don't know. I mean, Anakin just knows how to fly and destroys the control ship. But other than that, I did enjoy that space battle. It's also the appearance of Darth Maul for the second time, and when the film gets really cool. And you could easily say this is the best part of the film. I would have no issue with that. I personally like the pod racing moment more, just in my opinion. But I have no issue if you say this is better. And with the Duel of Fates theme playing, it just gets truly epic. The dual lightsaber design borrowed and inspired by Exar Kun's saber from Tales of the Jedi, which is how crazy and transcendent the EU is. It just shows how big of an impact the EU has, because the Exar Kun's design was before Darth Maul's design. It's just insanity to me. And people want to say the EU is fucking stupid. Fucking ridiculous. And it wasn't canon and all. Like, fuck off. And an actor, Ray Park, does all of the fight choreography for Maul, and he's just amazing to behold. And easily a match for both Jedi, and nearly beat them too. And Obi-Wan is enraged before, encountering Maul and seeing his master die. But he calms down to not let his anger consume him, and cuts Maul's lightsaber in half. And Maul is terrific with the lightsaber at the time, but Obi-Wan actually had the upper hand during that moment, until Maul just kicked him down. And Obi-Wan talks with Yoda after the battle and tells him that he will train Anakin, no matter what. This is what he promised Qui-Gon. Yoda warns against it, and for once, Obi-Wan pushes back and showing he is just against the Council's word. For once! And Qui-Gon's body remains, and not a Force ghost, but he transcends the Force in the EU, which is very different than many other Jedi who die and their bodies disappear. And the Jedi Masters don't know if the Master or the Apprentice was killed, but obviously we know. And it pans to Palpatine looking at Qui-Gon's grave, which is just another great foreshadowing moment. This movie does a lot of great foreshadowing for what's to come in the later prequel films. And then finally, we have the celebration akin to the Return of the Jedi, with this big crazy parade and silly city celebrating. And it's just really cool. I just love the setting once again. And the Gungans are finally treated as friends to Naboo, and the movie ends. So I'll give my final thoughts after the rating. So I'm giving Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, a... It's really not a bad movie. It's got its problems. It's definitely got its problems. But I wouldn't say it's like the worst of the worst Star Wars films. I mean, we had the fucking Last Jedi. But it's not a terrible film by any means. It's got a lot of great going into it. It's got its slow down moments, yes, but I think it's an overall good movie to watch. And it's very entertaining. And that's what we want to see out of a film. Yes, films will have their problems here and there, maybe at the story or the plot, or, the characters be into it. But if the entertainment value is very high, I think everything can just, you can wipe all of that away. That's why I think I will enjoy like films like Alice in Wonderland, even though everybody hated that, more so than others, and because of the entertainment value. I do think you should give this movie a shot if you've hated the prequels for years. Rewatch these movies, especially episode 1, 2, and 3 back to back, and I think you'll have a different perspective overall. I really do believe that. I know many people will be jaded and just hate them constantly, but I don't have any bias against the prequels, so maybe that's it. But if you're willing to let go of all the hatred that goes into these prequel films, I think you'll enjoy them for what they are, like really entertaining films that are much different than the originals, completely different, and deserve their respect in their own right. So that was episode 1. I'm glad I timed it so that it came out right on the release date. But as for episode 2 and 3, I'm gonna have to delay them, unfortunately. Episode 2 will not be coming out until July, the review for that, and then episode 3 will be October. So 2 months I need. I've been really busy. I can't do it 1 month after another month, so I need some time to watch the films, analyze them. I'm also a lot of things going on in my life right now. I got to get ready for, the big day for me. And I just cannot do the back-to-back, unfortunately. But I'll still have the regular content like Coder, and I'll have to wrap that up pretty soon, actually. Then I will get back to the prequels, and of course I'll review the last of the Disney Star Wars film of the sequel trilogy garbage. So I thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to please like this video, comment down below. If you've seen episode 1, let me know in the comment section. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Just let me know in the comment section. And subscribe to my channel, Django Fett, if you haven't already. And I'll see you, my fellow Mandalorian brothers and sisters, next time. Ooh, yeah!